Welcome to the channel. My name is Eric, and today we're going to talk about non-paying customers. I did a short. You're going to see that probably earlier today. If you haven't, there's one out there. I wished I would have been told this when I first started over 20 years ago in this business. And I don't think it's just this business. I think all businesses, whether you're doing repairs or what have you, have these problems from time to time. Okay, so what can you do about it? You're a shop, you've got a machine that you took in on good faith. On good faith, you fixed it, and then you call the customer and they don't show up. Here's what I can tell you that I've learned in the last 20 plus years is A, don't let that machine go until it's paid for. Do I have customers that are really good and that I trust that have over time shown me that they're trustworthy, that I can drop it off when it's done and ready and it's like money in the bank? Absolutely. Most of my customers are that way. Thank goodness that, and there's another video that you can watch, part of my library and stuff, on how to thin down the customers and get the customers you want. You want the customers that are going to pay you, right? The way I tell customers when they start playing games with me is, do you go to work and then not expect to get paid for the time that you're there? What if they held your check and said, no, we're not going to pay you this week? What are you going to do? You're going to have a cow, right? So that's how I feel, is that we work for a living too, and we need to get paid to pay our bills. And this is how we're doing it, right? So what I used to do was, once the machine was done, because we used to do a lot of pickup and drop-offs for customers, is I would drop it off and I would wait for that phone to ring or that check to show up in the mail so I could check box that is paid. In that time, I kind of developed a sixth sense. I know when people are going through hard times. And I'm not directing it towards you guys where it's just a rough part in your life and you're trying to get through and just seems like everything all come up at once. I get it, 63 years being on this earth, I've been rich, poor, and in between. So nothing needs to be explained to me other than don't avoid me. If I tell you the bill is this, or leave a message on your answer machine, at least have the courtesy to call me back and say, Eric, I can't afford to pay that this week. Is it okay if I pay it next week? At least you're keeping the rapport with me. The ones that I really have issues with are the ones that go silent, go dark. You don't hear, see, or anything. And if you saw them in Walmart and they saw you first, they start heading in the other direction. Those are the ones that drive me nuts and keep me up nights. All right, so what have I learned in the last 20 years? Probably the biggest thing is you don't let things go unless you know who it is and you know that they're going to pay you. If there's any shred of doubt in your mind that you're not going to get paid, do not release that machine. And why do I tell you that? Because you're going to say, well, I can put a mechanic's lien on it. Yes, you can. But if you took it back and dropped it off at their place, they have no incentive to come pay you. And I'll tell you, my biggest problems aren't with the people that are just getting by. It's the ones that have the money, and that's probably why they still have the money, is because they try to get out of having to pay. Or those would be the first ones to come in and bitch and complain, trying to get their bill reduced because they said you weren't supposed to do X, Y, and Z, this or that. Those are the ones you want to thin out, those customers. Part of doing and creating this channel a couple of years ago was to try to supply you guys with the best information available of how to do things without it costing you anything and with me looking for nothing in return. If you could like and subscribe our videos and stuff like that, that would help me immensely, and I'd be very appreciative of that. But other than that, I'm not asking you to pay a subscription every month to learn how to do this or that and the insides. This is all for your taking. And when I do these videos, I tell people, take what you can use, leave the rest. Don't try to make it exactly the way Eric does it. Make it work for you so that you feel it's doable that direction. All right, so don't ever let anything go unless you know you're going to get paid for it. The other thing I've learned in the over 20 plus years, and that's why I always tell people that don't put a dime more into a piece of equipment than you think you could sell it for or what you think it's worth. And I don't say it just so that the customer isn't shell shocked when they get their bill. I say it because if you run into that customer that does go dark and 3 months later their mower is still sitting here, can you get at least out of it what you have in it? And I know a lot of shops that will throw $300 at a $100 mower. And I'm saying, why? Yeah, you could take those parts back off, but now you got labor taking it back off again, right? So what if you did to what you think the machine is worth of what you could sell it for? And if it's going to go over that and the customer says yes, go over that, don't be afraid to ask for the money for the parts up front. Then the only thing you're going to lose on is just your labor, right? Not the parts. And I know some shops that do very well of doing a diagnostic, getting a hold of the customer, and then having the customer come in and put a deposit down before they start the work. And usually it's the cost of the parts. We started doing that with the big jobs, like the farm tractors, when we're doing our engine rebuilds and stuff like that, where it does run a couple $1,000s. And I'd rather have that couple $1,000s in my pocket than have another tractor sitting out here that I don't need and that I got to dick around and try to sell it. So that's why I tell you, you know, it's a good policy to have in your shop of treat the machine like your own and treat it like if you had to sell it to get your money back, can you sell it for that? And if you can't, then start looking at ways to get the money for the parts up front. Storage fees. That's one way to get customers a little bit more kind of a cattle prod to get them in and get it paid for. Is I've had customers go a month without getting a hold of me and then all of a sudden show up and want to pay their bill and come get their mower like it was yesterday. And the month's receipts that you already paid out for all this stuff is way back there. And yes, you're thrilled that you're going to get the money, right? But you've had your money tied up for a month where you could have had like your credit card paid down that you used to get the parts and stuff like that. You're going to get a percentage on that if you don't pay that in full, you're going to end up having to carry the balance, and it's going to be an interest rate on it, right? So storage fees, I would say, are a must. And the biggest thing with storage fees is it's going to dictate what your square footage is, your real estate. How much real estate do you have? If you're in the cities and stuff like that, real estate is very expensive, right? So a lot of times that I've noticed is you don't have a lot of storage room, maybe some out back. But storage is limited, right? Here for me, it's not so much. I've got almost 3 acres with the shop. So we've got areas to store stuff. But the other thing, if you have a customer come onto your property after hours and take that mower without paying for it, and you get a hold of them and say, you need to get the money to me right now, I would say you could have them arrested for coming onto your property. Even though it was their property that they were taking, if you have a repair order sitting on the desk that you can show the sheriff's department or the state troopers, say this is the bill that it cost to fix that. That machine was to stay here until they fixed it. So getting law enforcement involved is not a bad thing. You don't need to call 911. You can call another number that's available for your local sheriff's department or whatever, and they'll do a courtesy. They'll go out and they'll talk to that customer and they'll tell the customer, you need to go pay Mr. Edie today. Today, unless you want to go to jail. And I've had them come pay me just that way. That's why I'm saying it. But again, you need to find out what the rules and laws are applicable in your area, okay? But the biggest thing that I've learned over the years is you can't just assume, and if you do get into one of these issues, you want to make damn sure that there is on the wall, says what your hourly rate is, storage fees that could be incurred if they don't pick it up after 5 days a week from your call to them. It's got to be on the wall where they can see it when they walk into your shop. And anything else in between. You just can't say, well, the customer knew. If you had that on the wall and it's got cobwebs on it and the sheriff or state troopers show up and you point to that and they take a look and they see the cobwebs, they know you didn't just stick it up there. It's been up there from day one. So you need to have it visible in order to enforce it, okay? The worst thing you can do, is, as far as I'm concerned, is start calling this customer and being overbearing and swearing at them and call them a loser, lowlife, all the other stuff. Even though you may want to, don't. Take that higher ground. And that issue that's going on in between you and that customer needs to stay between you and that customer. And if you get law enforcement involved, you, that customer, and law enforcement. It's not to spread gossip all over town of how they're a POS, okay? Even though you feel that way, don't. And the other thing is, don't sabotage a piece of equipment of theirs to try to get them back. Because I'm a firm believer in karma, guys. And then I got the man upstairs. But what you put out, you're going to get back twofold. So if you're being arrogant, obnoxious, and you might feel better after getting it all off your chest, it's going to come back and it's going to be a blowback. And they can get you for harassment, by the way, if you start calling them. And they can get you for slander if you start bad-mouthing them all over town. It's nobody else's business but you and that customer. But if something like that goes on, good chances are, hopefully you've learned your lesson and it wasn't too expensive, and chalk it up to a learning lesson. Some things cost money to learn. And I had a cattle buyer when I was buying cows for quite a few years. And I was just getting into it. And the cattle buyer come up to me and he said, Eric, when you go to college, you pay a tuition to learn. In the sale barn, you're going to pick some animals that you shouldn't have picked. And they're either going to die because they're sick. And you're going to lose money from it. But think of it as a tuition. Learn from your mistakes and keep going forward and make yourself a better buyer the next time. So on that note, put in the comments if you've been burned before. This should be good. And how you dealt with it. And is my way the better way? I can't wait for the comments. So on that note, you guys have a great day.